Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, and today's video will be covering another new Nintendo Switch eShop sale and 10 great Switch deals worth buying, so let's get into it. Now the first game on today's list is Vampire Survivors. Now technically this game is on pre-order right now, but it does come out in a couple of days, and you can get a discount on it if you pre-order now. But this has been one of my favorite games and most addicting games in recent years. I first played it on Steam, and then it was released again on Xbox, and I picked it up on Game Pass over there. And now it's coming out again on Switch, and I'm definitely going to pick it up here as well. Now the game itself is sort of a reverse bullet hell survival game, and you'll play as a variety of different vampire hunters as you try and survive waves and waves of enemies like skeletons, zombies, mummies, and more. And this time around in the Switch version, you can actually play local co-op, and there's a couple upcoming DLC packages coming out as well. Now throughout the game, there's not a ton of storyline. You're basically hunting down vampires and that's about it. But you do have a variety of different character classes to choose from. And a lot of them are pulled right out of the Castlevania series, which I was a big fan of as well. And so each one of your heroes has a base starting weapon, but you'll be able to find a variety of weapon types throughout your runs as well. So you'll get things like axes, holy water, crosses, daggers, and much more. And each one of these weapons has a unique pattern to it, and you can also find a variety of passive ability power-ups that you can collect along the way as well. And so these might be things like increasing the damage area of your weapons, increasing your movement speed, making the duration of your weapons last longer, and much more. And so what's really cool is as you progress and kill enemies, you'll actually level up your character. And when you do this, you'll be able to choose from either a new weapon type, a new passive ability type, or an upgrade to the strength of your existing items and weapons. Another really cool feature is that you can actually combine these weapons and items to kind of create ultimate weapons. And there's certain combinations that work together. And when you've maxed out the weapon level and this item level, they combine together to create a super weapon. For example, the whip weapon in its powered up state can actually drain life from enemies. There's several different levels that you can choose from, and you're constantly unlocking new abilities. The game also has some roguelike elements to it as well, where how the enemies spawn is totally different every time. And also you'll be able to take gold that you collect throughout your runs and put those towards permanent power-ups for your characters that apply across the board. There's so many different unlockables from different weapons and items that you can unlock along the way to additional characters, new stages, and much more. As I mentioned, it's one of the most addicting games I've played in recent years. It's a whole lot of fun, and at just a few bucks for the price, it can't be beat. And I definitely recommend picking it up. The next game on today's list is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Now this is actually an HD remaster of a game that originally came out on the PSP, and it's a prequel to the original Final Fantasy VII game. And it was definitely my favorite game on the PSP, so when I saw that they made this remastered version, I was super excited about it. And so in the game itself, you follow the story of Zack Fair, who's a soldier for the Shinra Corporation, and you'll really unravel his backstory and how that ties in with Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Sephiroth, and several of the main characters from the original Final Fantasy VII. And you'll also visit a lot of the key locations from the original Final Fantasy VII game. And this time around, you play in a more of an action RPG compared to the more turn-based RPG from the original Final Fantasy VII. And so you don't really play as a team of characters, you just play as Zack throughout the game. And it has a unique materia system and also a really cool materia fusion system as well. And so you'll collect a variety of materia throughout the game, and these can unleash powers within battle, so magic spells, summons, unique abilities, and more. But on top of that, they'll often have an ability booster to these materia as well. So it might increase your attack, your hit points, your magic, and this really goes on for a lot of different combinations. But what's cool is you can fuse different materia together, and so as they level up, they become more powerful, they enhance the stat boosting ability, but again, you can mix and match materia to create brand new unique materia that you can equip to your character, unleashing new abilities. On top of that, it has a really cool slot machine type mechanic to it, where this is constantly spinning in the background. And as these numbers line up, you can unlock enhancement for your character, maybe a level up, for example, or leveling up the materia, or it might be in-battle enhancements as well, like magic spells costing no MP. On top of that, as you meet new characters throughout the game and unlock summons throughout the game, you'll actually be able to line these up in a slot machine fashion, and when all the characters line up, you'll actually kind of summon them for a limit break type ability, or a summon if it happens to be a summon creature. It's really cool getting to explore the backstory leading up to Final Fantasy VII, and there's also a mission feature where there's dozens of different challenges where you'll face off against enemies in kind of a mini dungeon, and when you defeat these challenges, you'll unlock new items or new materia, and this is a lot of fun as well, taking on these different challenges and unlocking these secret items. The combat is a ton of fun, the materia system is incredibly addicting, trying to max out your character's abilities, and all the extra missions give you plenty to do outside the main storyline as well. It's one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and if you haven't yet played Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, I would definitely recommend picking it up. The next game on the list is Elypse. Now, Elypse is an action platformer Metroidvania style game, and so the story of the game focuses around you as a young hero that has been sacrificed by his village, and you're banished to an abyss, which typically leads to certain death. But you actually survive, and now you're trying to find a way out of the abyss, and that's really the center point of this game. And so as I mentioned, the game itself is more of an action platformer Metroidvania, very similar to games like Hollow Knight and Ori. It has very intense platforming aspects to the game, as well as a skill tree that you can use to unlock new abilities for your character and new powers. The game isn't necessarily as long as games like Ori or Hollow Knight, but it is very challenging, and if you like action platformers and Metroidvania games, I think this one could be worth checking out as well. The next game on the list is Super Alloy Ranger. And so this game is an action platformer very similar to the classic Mega Man series. And so this game you play as two different playable characters. One is going to be more of that ranged character similar to Mega Man, but you'll be able to collect different power-ups throughout the levels that actually accelerate the abilities of your gun. And so if you collect them, you can actually level up your gun, making it more powerful. And so there's hidden orbs throughout the stages. And again, if you collect them all before fighting the boss, you'll power up your character to max ability. There's also a melee style character similar to Zero from the Mega Man X series, where you'll be able to wield a variety of melee type weapons like swords and spears and much more. And the game features that open stage select style, again similar to the Mega Man series, where there's a variety of bosses that you can choose from, and if you defeat them you can unlock their ability, either being a new weapon type you can use for the range type character, or different abilities tying into your melee weapons as the other style character. I think if you like this classic action platforming style gameplay, you'll enjoy this game as well. The next game on the list is Hyrule Warriors, the Definitive Edition. And so if you haven't played a Warriors game, they're really hack and slash, you versus thousands of enemies, and this game takes that gameplay style and melds it with the Legend of Zelda series. And so certainly it's going to be focused more around that hack and slash style gameplay compared to more of a dungeon crawling, puzzle solving Legend of Zelda experience. But what's really cool again is that you get to play as many of the classic characters from the Legend of Zelda series, and you'll also have several different abilities and items that you can use from the series as well. So you'll be able to have kind of a secondary weapon for your character, like the bombs and bow and arrows and much more. And the game also has a lot of RPG elements to it as well. So each one of these characters has their own skill tree that you can build out to further enhance their abilities as you play through the game. Again, this game is very addicting in the sense that there's a ton to unlock and improve with your characters. It has a high replay value, even though some of the levels may get a little repetitive. It's definitely fun and addicting trying it out with a new character and to work on powering them up as well. It features all kinds of classic Legend of Zelda music, as well as the variety of characters that I mentioned. And so again, if you like the Legend of Zelda and action RPG hack and slash style gameplay like the Warriors series, this is a great melding of both, and I definitely recommend it. The next game on the list is Dragon Quest Treasures. And so this is a spin-off sort of prequel to Dragon Quest XI. And in this game, you're going to be playing as Eric and his sister Mia as they go on a wild adventure, tracking down treasure in a magical land, Draconia. And so it kind of combines treasure hunting with an action RPG and some monster collecting as well. And so I think the game is a little bit more geared towards the younger crowd, and it probably isn't going to be that much of a challenge for you if you're used to playing more traditional RPGs, but it is still a lot of fun. And so again, you'll have a variety of monsters that you can recruit throughout the game, and not only do you add them to your team in the action RPG combat elements, they also all have unique abilities that can play into your environment and helping you reach new areas. And so you'll not only need to strategically build your team to maximize combat, you'll also want a variety of monsters to help you access more treasure. On top of that, it's pretty fun where the monsters, you can kind of go into their eyes and see where a treasure might be located from the perspective of the monster. And so that can give you little clues on where to find the different treasures, and I thought that was a cool element as well. It obviously features a ton of the great Dragon Quest music from the series as well as many familiar faces in terms of monsters from the Dragon Quest series. And so if you want more of a lighthearted action RPG, I would definitely recommend this one as well. The next game on today's list is Dicey Dungeons. And so in Dicey Dungeons, you'll actually play as a variety of heroes that have been turned into dice by Lady Luck, and you compete in sort of a game show type atmosphere where you need to dive into dungeons and escape in hopes of returning to your real form. And so it's kind of a funny over-the-top concept that's the basis of the game, but it's definitely a lot of fun as you play through it as well. And so each player that you play as has a unique play style, and it features some classic RPG character types like a warrior or a thief, but then there's also some unique ones to this game as well, and that definitely adds some unique replay value to the game. And so it kind of is a roguelike experience as well, where the dungeons are more procedurally generated and different every time you go into it. And it also has some deck building elements to the game as well. And so combat is kind of like that turn-based RPG mixed with deck building, where you'll roll a handful of dice and then you'll need to assign them to abilities based on the characters. And so again, as I mentioned, they all play a little bit different, where warriors will be trying to get high numbers to do damage quickly. Thieves are going to be trying to get combos of different dice. There's spellcasters where each die number relates to a different spell that the character can use, and much more. And so as you traverse through the dungeons, you'll need to map out where you want to go, who you want to attack, what treasures you want to open, in hopes of clearing the dungeon and defeating the boss at the end. And throughout this process, you'll also acquire new cards that enhance your abilities, and this is kind of the deck building element where certain cards will come up and you'll be able to use them in conjunction with the dice that you roll. And so it's a really cool, unique concept that's really fun and really addicting, and I think if you like dungeon crawling, turn-based RPGs, and deck building, you'll enjoy this game as well. The next game on today's list is Unmetal. And so Unmetal is a 2D stealth game similar to classic games from the Metal Gear series. And so this game is sort of a love letter to that series, but also a parody of the series as well. And so you actually play as Jesse Fox that has been wrongfully imprisoned in a military compound, and you need to find a way out. And so the game is really funny and puts you in a lot of weird situations, again combined with that stealth Metal Gear style gameplay. And so you'll have a variety of challenges when you move from room to room throughout the game. Some of them you'll need to stealthily take out soldiers. Other times you're taking on robotic sentries or disarming traps and dodging mines buried in the ground. There's a lot of different elements to the gameplay, even some light RPG elements as well, where if you defeat enemies stealthily, you'll earn stars that you can then use to level up your character and unlock new abilities and enhancements. You also have the option to loot enemies for gear, and you need to do this stealthily as well. So if you take out enemies, often you'll need to hide their bodies from other enemies to make sure you're not uncovered and found. It has a fun, over-the-top story, set in this stealth covert ops environment. And so I think if you like stealth action games and classic games from the Metal Gear series, you'll enjoy this one as well. The next game on today's list is Dodgeball Academia. And so this game is a dodgeball themed action RPG, and you play as a young hero that's on a quest to become the best dodgeball player in the world. And so you actually attend this Dodgeball Academy to learn the ins and outs and high level skills of dodgeball. And so along the way, you'll actually meet a bunch of different other dodgeball players, and you'll assemble your team as you grow and try and be the best dodgeball player there is. And so as I mentioned, it combines RPG elements with a dodgeball game. And so the combat is really where the dodgeball comes into play, because in the combat, you face off against other dodgeball teams to be the last team standing. And so it has really real-time action combat in this dodgeball game setting, and that's really fun. On top of that, each one of the characters you play as on your team has a unique set of abilities, and you can change between them at any time. And this really keeps combat fresh and a lot of fun. On top of that, the game also has a local co-op feature, and so you can battle it out against a friend in these local co-op matches. And overall, the game is a lot of fun. It really reminded me of the classic Mario tennis game from the Game Boy Color, where it was kind of a sports game meets RPG, where you'll be able to power up your characters, but be playing a sport, in this case dodgeball as well. It's a really cool concept, and I think it's executed well. And so if you like what you see, I would recommend picking this one up as well. The final game on today's list is Archvale. Now, Archvale is a unique concept that's like a bullet hell meets action RPG dungeon crawler. And so in this game, you play as a hero that's in search of 6 arch fragments in order to put them together to assemble an arch that can be used to defeat an evil king that's terrorizing the land. And so the story's not super in depth, that's kind of all you'll get beyond little bits and pieces throughout the game as you explore. But really where this game shines is its fast-paced action combat and addicting gameplay. And so throughout the game, you'll have a variety of weapon types that each have their own unique play style and abilities. And then over time, as you defeat enemies, you'll be able to craft enhancements to these weapons and power up your character with unique items and armor as well. And so again, there's a ton of weapons like swords, bow and arrows, boomerangs, magic staffs, and much more. And each one of these have a unique feel to them, as well as an additional challenge depending on how you use them. On top of that, it is more of that bullet hell style. So there's going to be enemies all over the screen shooting projectiles at you nonstop. And so you're really going to need to master dodging and attacking, and it's a lot of fun in this fast-paced game. The dungeon crawling feels a little bit like The Legend of Zelda in the bird's eye view exploration, and each new area has a little bit of a procedurally generated feel to it, where the monsters that spawn are different every time you enter the room, and this keeps you on your toes as well. There's also several challenge levels to the game as well, where you really need to put your dodging ability to the test to unlock additional power-ups for your character. And I think if you like dungeon crawling, action RPGs, and bullet hells, this is an awesome combination of them all, and I definitely recommend it. But again, that wraps up our list of 10 more games worth buying in this latest Nintendo Switch eShop sale. If you're going to pick up any of these games, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Or if you've played them before, let us know your thoughts on the games as well. And if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you'd like to help support the channel, pick out content and more, consider becoming a patron of ours over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And another really cool way that you can help support the channel is that we recently partnered with a game store. So if you like things like board games, Pokemon cards, Magic cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, and more, you can actually head to nutmeggames.com/nerdproblemsgaming or use Nerd Problems Gaming at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your order and help support our channel at the same time. So if you like those things, I would recommend checking that out as well. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out, and to make sure you don't miss out any future sale videos so you can take advantage of these great deals. Well, once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.